Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Let's get into it. So today we're gonna have our 2023 NFL mock draft number two. This is gonna be after the combine, so we're gonna look at, maybe some potential trades in the top five, who rose up the boards, whose stock was hurt after the combine. But make sure you guys leave your thoughts down below. What do you guys think is gonna happen? In the draft, considering the combine. And then we'll do another one after, kind of the first wave of free agency. But in the meantime, let's just go ahead and switch over to our PFF mock draft. All right, everyone. So now we're here on the PFF mock draft simulator. And so, we've got control of the teams. We're just going to do the first round. So we're going to enter the draft. Um, so I think the first things first we're going to do here. I definitely think that the Texans are eyeing a quarterback. And I think that Bryce Young is by far and away easily the best quarterback in this draft. And I think that especially after his weigh in at the combine, the Texans are going to be really, really, really committed to not allowing other teams to jump them for him. So I think that they're going to go ahead and trade for the number one pick. I don't even think they have to give up the other first to swap out the jump up just one spot. So we're going to go ahead and force this trade. I think this is a reasonable trade, though. So the Texans are going to jump up to number one. And then I don't think the Bears will trade back again. I think that we're going to have to let more of the Jalen Carter situation play out. But assuming that maybe it takes a little while for that to play out. I don't think they'll trade back without the guarantee that they'll get the blue chip prospect with kind of no character flaws or, worries. I don't think they have the culture to bring someone in like that. So for the moment, I think they'll just stay put at number two, but they'll pick up another pick that they lost in the Chase Claypool trade. So we're going to start the draft. So, like I said, I think the Texans are going to go ahead and just go ahead and get Bryce Young, best quarterback in the draft. He's so good, y'all. He is immaculate, and I'm going to do a video breaking down all the quarterbacks in this class, but Bryce Young's really, really, really good. So I think next here, if kind of the Jalen Carter character concerns kind of clear up, I definitely could see this as another spot for them to trade back to maybe four, where then, if you're with Indianapolis and then you're in a position to get either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, just whoever the Cardinals don't take. But I do think that they're going to go ahead and get, the biggest kind of blue chip prospect in the class, Will Anderson. They're in desperate need of defensive help. It's ridiculous. So I think while Jalen Carter is a mystery at this point in time, I think this is a really interesting trade spot for Arizona. If Jalen Carter, no worries, you take him, you don't worry about it, you roll. But I don't think that they've got the culture either, kind of similar to the Bears, to kind of inherit some of those type of character flaws. So I think this is actually a great trade spot with them. I think the Panthers would be interested in this pick. They've been very vocal about trying to land a quarterback. Um, and so I think if Carolina, they trade a 9, maybe a 1 and a 2, probably 2 this year, whatever to go get. I don't really know what the trade package would be, but something kind of that manner to go to jump up and get your quarterback because the Panthers actually have a really pretty decent roster. I think they're just a quarterback away, especially with how weak that division is. I think that they could sacrifice, um, some picks to go get kind of a more ready quarterback. And I think the most ready quarterback in this class is C.J. Stroud. So I think that's who the Panthers would be willing to go up and get. And then if you're Colts, Will Levis lands right in your lap. You don't have to trade up for him. You don't have to go do anything. And that's probably he kind of fits the Colts profile. He would be very good. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, offensive line, Frank Reich. I feel like Will Levis can be, what Carson Wentz was kind of in his prime, maybe potentially. And I think, and Carson Wentz had a lot of success under Frank Reich. So I think it's a great fit all around for Will Levis and the Colts. So now if you're Seattle, you need a lot of defensive help, defensive line specifically. Seattle has dealt with kind of troublesome characters and turned it around and done such a good job of drafting lately. Jalen Carter falls in your lap. You take him. No question about it. So then I think the Lions are in a really interesting position here. You could get Tyree Wilson or, your choice of premium defensive prospect. But, I think that the Lions, they won 9 games already. Maybe in the North next year, Aaron Rodgers gets traded, Vikings regress. I think 9, 10 wins could probably win you that division as is. This is a luxury pick. This is a free trade you got in the Matthew Stafford trade. You knew as soon as you traded him, you knew Goff was not going to be the long term answer. He's a bridge guy. And so you've been searching for the next Matt Stafford replacement. And why not use a luxury pick where if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. It doesn't hurt you. You still got another first round pick on a player in this draft who, full transparency, full honesty, has the tools and the potential to be the best player on the planet. And that player is Anthony Richardson. 6'4", 245, 4'4", 40, cannon arm, super fast, but just extremely raw, really inaccurate. And but I think the Lions would be a great place where he could actually like unlock that potential. Um, and so if I'm Anthony Richardson, I'm trying to end up in Detroit. And so, if the Raiders, you just kind of take, best defensive player available. Uh, and I think that is Tyree Wilson. So go ahead, pick him. Now, if I'm Arizona, or excuse me, Atlanta, I need pass rush help. It's so documented. It's ridiculous. Um, Go ahead and go get Miles Murphy. A guy we've been talking about a lot lately. It's been consistently high up the board. He's going to be great pass rush help for you. Versatile guy. Now for the Cardinals, you traded back. You got some extra picks, some extra capital. You've got a lot of holes. But I think you can fill one of your fulfill. Take, kind of flip a coin on Devin Weatherspoon or Christian Gonzalez. Um, I'm going to go with Devin Weatherspoon, and the Eagles are going to follow right with Christian Gonzalez. I think the Eagles are going to lose a combination of James Bradbury or CJ Gardner Johnson. I think what the Eagles pick is going to really come down to like kind of um, who all they lose in free agencies. They do have a lot of free agencies up and or free agents that are coming up. And so depending on who they resign, I think it's really going to dictate this pick. But I had Christian Gonzalez last time. I think it's a great fit for them. And then for the Titans, I think I had this in my last draft. Paris Johnson, arguably best offensive tackle in the class. Now the Texans, I think with D'Amico Ryans as their coach coming over from San Francisco, he's going to really, really value defensive line and the importance of that fundamental pass rusher that you have on your team. Currently, the Texans don't have that, and I think here at 12, they go ahead and draft Lucas Van Ness. I was tempted to go with Nolan Smith out of Georgia, but I just don't think that he's got quite the size that D'Amico Ryans wants to be the foundational piece of your defensive line. So now if you're the Jets, assuming they're in no man's land anyways, but assuming that they fulfill quarterback during free agency, you got to protect them. Peter Skoronski's a big pickup here. New England, one thing about them, they're going to draft corners. They're going to spend a lot of capital on corners, and I think Deontay Banks, after a great showing at the combine, is going to land himself within the top few picks. It's a great corner class, by the way. I'm going to steal this pick from my last class. I know it kind of seems odd that they wouldn't have drafted any weapons, for Aaron Rodgers over time, but I just don't think you can pass up someone like Michael Mayer at this spot. So every single time I get to the Commanders pick, I always have a hard time of like trying to figure out what to do with it. You know, they're kind of it's too this pick is like an odd there's not really a prospect that fits kind of what their needs are. There's not a quarterback here available. You're not going to reach on a linebacker or an interior offensive lineman at this point. So I think you just kind of shoot in the dark. Someone of great positional value, someone who's really talented. You go with Broderick Jones out of Georgia. Pittsburgh, this one's easy. They need corner help. Joey Porter, press man, kind of guy. Um, he's going to get fit right in there. Detroit, I think this is where you address some of your defensive worries. Brian Branch is a super versatile secondary player. He's not exactly um, maybe the exact defensive the DB they need, but a versatile player in the backfield is always going to be welcomed with a team like that. So I think they go with Brian Branch. Um, a guy I think for the Bucks, here, I think that the most obvious need that you can fill in right here would be defensive lineman. And I think a guy who, based off his combine performance, launched himself in the first round. I think Elijah Cansey is going to go right here. And I think right here the Seahawks end up with a really, really good sneaky pick. Nolan Smith went absolutely crazy at the combine. He's got chemistry with Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith's got all the intangibles of a great leader, maybe someone who you can use to keep Jalen Carter in check. And so you've really poured into the defensive line and with two guys that already have chemistry with one another. The Chargers, honestly, this is probably one of my favorite picks in the entire draft. I think if they decide to let Keenan Allen go, Jackson Smith and Jigba, arguably the best receiver in the class, fits right in and nails that slot receiver position that they've been lacking or that they would need to replace. Um, I think with the Ravens, you just pick whichever receiver you think is best here. Based off of the sport, I'm going to go with Quentin Johnson. They've shown that they, maybe don't want to support Lamar the way they probably need to, but I think this could be a good first step. Minnesota, I think, you've got a really talented Brian Brzee, which, I had much higher in my last mock draft, but just kind of the way that the sport fell, that this time around it fell, he does end up falling into the 20s. And honestly, I think if you're Minnesota, you can't be happier than picking him up right here. If you're Jacksonville, I think I had this in my last mock, but you just got to do everything you can to help T Law. Osiris Torrance, I think, helps you do that. If you're the Giants, you just kind of throw a dart at whoever is your best receiver. I think Jordan Addison is going to be really, really great, especially they're going to need cheap weapons after they've paid Daniel Jones so much and the franchise Saquon. The Cowboys, I think Zay Flowers fits the type of receiver that Dak likes to throw to. I think he's great. The Bills, you got manhandled by Cincinnati. And so, you need you need offensive lineman help, you need more run game help. And I think going with Anton Harrison out of OU will help you achieve that. If you're the Bengals, I think you're in a really unique position to take kind of a luxury pick here. Cincinnati doesn't have very many holes. Um, And I think honestly they can kind of knock out two needs with one. Um, they need tight end help. They had like some of the least amount of receiving yards from their tight ends last season. They need to continue to address the offensive line. And while it's not a perfect O line fit, Darnell Washington is essentially six offensive linemen on the field who's fast and can catch. I honestly think this is such a scary pick for the rest of the league if Darnell Washington falls to them and they end up taking him. So the Saints, they don't need quarterback anymore. They got Derek Carr, so I think they can fulfill other needs. I think Will McDonald had a great Senior Bowl. He's going to end up who the Saints are going to take. These last two are just like my last mock draft, kind of luxury picks for these two teams. I think probably the Eagles won't resign Miles Sanders. They won't want to pay him what he wants. Bijan Robinson staring them down the face. Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, that offensive line. I mean, that's going to be scary for the rest of the league. And then Dalton Kincaid, who I talked about last time, I think would be a really good luxury pick for the Chiefs here. They need receiver help big time, and Dalton Kincaid is basically just a receiver in a tight end's body. So in the immediate, he can serve as some receiver help, but then eventually he can transition to that Travis Kelce role as Travis Kelce eventually ages out. of being an elite tight end. So that's going to end the draft with Dalton Kincaid. So here's the full mock if you just want to take a second to pause and look at it. Here's all the picks I made, so pause. Okay, now we're going to keep moving. So thank you guys for watching today's video. I always appreciate the support. Make sure you guys check out the link content above, and you guys have a great day. Thanks.